Shall I start?
Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. We finally figured out all the technical difficulties that we were initially facing, and without wasting any further time, I'm going to ask Hilton to continue with his presentation.
Hello everyone, welcome to this presentation, monitoring and evaluation. Presentation will follow the following outline. We'll start with introduction, differences between goal and objectives, aims, and what have you, as you can see on the screen. Now, what is monitoring and evaluations all about? Why has it suddenly been a very big issue? Global financial crisis has been the main cause why so many organizations today do focus on monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation begins at the end of the project, at the beginning of the project, sorry. You start with the project development. And one of the mistakes that people do is that they always consider monitoring and evaluation at the end of the project instead at the beginning of the project. And monitoring and evaluation, most of the times people look at it as one word or one entity. These are two words. They are two distinct words. You have monitoring and you have evaluation. And there are a lot of misuse of words in monitoring and evaluation, and that will be the focus of this presentation because that is actually what will guide you when you want to invest time in this particular area of in the development sector. One of the most important aspect of monitoring and evaluation is in communication. It's actually a communication tool. I will start with goals, objectives, and aims. This particular area is very important in monitoring and evaluation because this is where evaluating projects, so many people find it very difficult. What is commonly referred to goal are just the intended target that your project wants to achieve, and this goal can never be measured. They are not smart, so they are always abstract endpoint of your project. That is where you are going, and they are backed up by by objectives. Sorry, they are backed up by objectives, which are the measurable outcomes. And objectives must be smart. For example, let's look at this example. Maybe you have a project, maybe to increase reading skills of college students, for example. That is your target. You want to increase a reading skill of students. How can you turn that into objectives? Your objectives will read as our project will improve the reading skills of 50 college students within 2 years. If you look at it, you see that it can be measured. It is specific. It is achievable. It is realistic. It is timely, because the 2 year is the time that defines it. What is the difference between objective then and an aim? An aim is an objective, but it doesn't have a particular time limit. For example, if you end your objectives with our project will improve the reading skills of 50 students without putting the 2 years, the time aspect of it is missing. That is the difference between objectives and aims. Now, what is monitoring and what is monitoring and what is evaluation? Monitoring is the process of tracking project implementation towards its intended goal or objectives. And you also track external factors that the project might encounter and those opportunities that the project might encounter. Monitoring is an ongoing process. You are actually looking at the project. You are actually monitoring every aspect of it to make sure that it is moving in the directions in which it was intended to move. It also focuses on the project implementations. When you are looking at monitoring, you are looking at the process of that project implementations. And in monitoring, you have what they call formative evaluation. These are sub-evaluations that you do when you are monitoring projects, and it is commonly referred to as formative evaluations. And then what is evaluation? Evaluation, in a broader sense, is like bringing data from the monitoring that you collected or some aspect of the monitoring that you have evaluated together with additional research about that particular issue in order to make to assess the effectiveness or the likely effectiveness of a project. And in evaluation, you always hear about summative evaluation. Summative evaluation, you are bringing in all the individual, all the formative evaluation, and you sum them, and they will either measure the likely effectiveness of your project or the effectiveness of your project. And this is time bound. You can either do evaluate a project at the end, at the mid of the project implementations, or at the end of that project implementation. Monitoring and evaluation is not measurement and evaluation, but it doesn't mean that we don't have an aspect of measurement in monitoring and evaluation. Both monitoring and evaluations, they have some similarities, and this, what makes them similar is that both of them, they measure the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the impact of a project. Now, there are different levels of evaluations. You can evaluate the activities of a project, you can evaluate the project, you can evaluate programs. Like many activities, they combine together to form a project. Many projects combine together to form a program. And it goes right up to the institutions in which you are doing the monitoring and evaluation. And one of the important concepts in monitoring and evaluation is what is referred to as outcome mapping. First of all, let's look at what outcome is. What are outcomes? These are the changes in behavior, in relationship, or activities, actions that you want the boundary partners to experience. And what are these boundary partners? Boundary partners are individual groups of people, organizations that you want your project to influence. This is what is referred to as boundary partner. Therefore, outcome mapping can therefore be referred to as the identifications of possible change and how they interact with one another through target audience to bring about the intended outcome. Now, for example, if you go to a community and you see that maybe the social issue is that they don't have clean water, and you want to provide clean water to that community, the first thing that will come into your mind is that you have to provide maybe tap water for that community. You have to build tap and then build water catchment. But does it end there? It doesn't end there, because you also have to train people on how to treat those water to make it pure for that community. So these are the things that people hardly consider, and this leads us to the theory of change. What is the theory of change? A theory of change is a complex diagrammatic representations of the various pathways in which your project will take in order to lead into the intended outcome. As you will see on the left side, I don't know if it is your right, there are some diagrams. You see how it is very complex. There is no particular formula of developing a theory of change. And then you have a logic model. What is a logic model? It is a logical representations of your project and how it is going to lead to the intended outcome. And in logic model, you have what is known as the input, you have your output, you have your outcome. And this beautiful diagram that you see is actually what is commonly referred to as a logic model. And those hands actually point into the 5 important sections of this document, which cannot be elaborated in this presentation because of time. But since this presentation is just to guide you on what to do, you see the most important point, the entry point in a logic model is the input. You have the output, which constitute the participant, the activities, and the direct product. You also have the outcome or the impact, which is divided into short-term, intermediate, and long-term. Also, we have assumptions. These assumptions, they interact with your input and your output, because for you to say that your project will succeed, you have assumed a lot of things. And then you have external factor. For a particular project to succeed, there are external factors. It could be political, it could be financial crisis, and you need to capture that in your logic model. We cannot elaborate that in this presentation because of time. Now, building a logic model, you don't just start from A. There is a concept behind a logic model. That beautiful diagram that you saw, it comes from this particular idea that was presented by Claude Bernard and Rickswell. They identified 7 steps in project development. You look at input is like a machine where you put input, the input generate into activities. The activities will include participants. This participant will in turn react to the activities that you have implemented in that community. And once they react, their knowledge, they will have a change in knowledge, their attitude will change, their skills will change, and their aspiration will change. And once this change occur, you will experience change in practice. And then once people have changed practice, maybe the practice could be that they will change laws, they can change policies, they can change the way that they implement, they do business in that particular, around that particular social issues, and you eventually lead to your intended outcome. So as I said, because of time, I cannot really explain all this. Now, measures, metrics, and indicators, including key performance indicators. These are some of the words that are commonly used, and people do not use it correctly. Because these are actually problems with monitoring and evaluation. The reasons why people do not really capture monitoring and evaluation is that most people use this word interchangeably, and they are the key to understanding what monitoring and evaluation is all about. A measure is a value that is quantified against a particular standard. For example, the dollar. If you are dealing with, if you want to evaluate the efficiency of a project, you have to compare the activities with the amount that was spent, with the amount of money that was spent. The height, maybe height, you measure height in meters. Meters are standard, feet are standard, yards are standard. All these things, those are if you collect data that include these things, you call them measures. And then what is a metric? A metric is the degree to which a particular subject possesses those qualities that you are measuring. For example, if you compare two changes, if you are comparing two changes at two different times, and you to see the difference, to see if either you are progressing or you are decreasing, or you are decreasing, sorry, you are actually, that particular aspect is actually what is referred to as metrics. And this is actually what, this is actually what developed into an indicators. When, to make it an indicators, is when these metrics are being compared with a particular baseline, that you are evaluating that project in. So key performance indicators in the nutshell are those important indicators that you think will be able to measure your intended outcome. Now, a monitoring and evaluation frame, you need to start developing a monitoring and evaluation framework or a monitoring and evaluation plan. And there are some important things to take into consideration. You need to identify your audience. Who are you developing the framework for, or who are you evaluating the project for? And then you need to identify questions, the questions that are important to these people. You need to identify your monitoring and evaluation questions, and all these things, they are very important when you are developing a monitoring and evaluation framework or a plan. These are some of the questions that might be interested to the funders. The funder might want to know the extent to which the project objectives were achieved. They might want to know if the project can be scaled in another place. They might want to know if the intervention, the project can continue without their support. They want to know all these things. And in the side of the team who are implementing the project, they want to know if the project was implemented as planned. They want to know the external factors that affected the project. They want to know if there are alternative methods that they could have reached their outcome without necessarily using the method that was used. So these are some of those questions. Those are some, you develop questions around this idea in order to be able to evaluate your project. Actually represent a monitoring and evaluation frame. A frame it includes evaluation, monitoring, and I'm getting some echo, sorry. You have those questions that we identified in the previous slide. You actually bring them here, and then you try to arrange them into this this frame to see, you look at what do we want to know, the monitoring questions. How will you know it? You look at the source, which are the indicators. Where are you going to get data in order to evaluate to evaluate those particular indicators, and who is going to be capturing this particular data? So all these things comes in a monitoring and evaluation frame. Sorry.
Hilton, you have minutes. Do you think you could wrap it up in like 5 minutes and we could jump down to some questions as well at the end, please?
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting.
Thank you for that. So actually, this is actually what you end up with a frame when you are developing a monitoring and evaluation frame. And a monitoring and evaluation plan is actually an outline. It is actually a document, just like your proposal, that spell out the details of those things that were included in the monitoring and evaluation frame. Now, there are different ways in which you have to collect data when you are implementing a monitoring and evaluation. You have to collect data through survey, focus group, role plays, interview, and all the various methods that we use to collect data. For the sake of time, we'll just watch. And then analysis. You can analyze your data. One of the most important things that is very common in monitoring and evaluation is what is referred to as triangulation. Triangulation should bring in qualitative and quantitative data to make sense of the intended change that you want to evaluate. And you can present all these things in graphs and bar chart, all those charts that we use to represent change. And you can use other software like Excel, SPSS, Startup, QDM Miner for qualitative analysis, Info to create forms. And with evaluations, when you are evaluating an institution, there is what we call, we refer to as a term of reference. This is actually the basics where this is actually where you are going to be. It's a document that you have to refer to when you are developing an evaluation report. With that said, I would like to end here and then receive some questions if there are any.
Great. Thank you, Hilton. That was indeed a great session. And we feel that, I mean, I especially know that monitoring and evaluation is such a vast topic that, I mean, covering it in 20 minutes is not the easiest things, but I think you definitely covered all the important aspects. One of the first questions that has been asked to you has been by Jeremiah. And his question is that what is the need for both goals and objectives, since they say almost the same thing, with one being SMART and the other not? Why have the two?
Okay. A goal just gives you that sense of directions. Like if you look at the word goal has a word go in it. This is the simplest way to differentiate this. It has the word go, and go means you are going in you have a particular focus that you want to achieve. For example, let me say, if I want if I am implementing a project on gender-based violence, for example, the goal will be that I want this particular social issue to be solved. That will be my goal. But how will I achieve this? I need to develop objectives, things that will guide me to know if I'm making progress to achieving this. So a goal actually gives a funder the target that you want to hit. It's like, I want to hit this target. This is where I want to go. Why objectives? You can have 4 objectives. You can have 3. You can have so many objectives. Those objectives together they play around in order to take you to where you are going. That is why those objectives are very important, and they must be SMART, because you need to measure. Those are the things that they are going to tell you if you are going towards that target or not. And that is where the evaluators, they base their evaluation on their objectives and not the goal.
Great.
Have I answered our question?
I'm sure you did. Thank you so much for the response, Hilton. The Bettina has been generous with her questions, and the first question that she has is, what is the difference between project management and monitoring and evaluation, or rather, is M&E an aspect of project management?
Monitoring and evaluation is an aspect of project management. The only difference is that you are not actually going with project management. You are actually putting everything together, starting from the finance. You have to know how, when to send money to or when to ask for money in order to do a particular task. But an evaluator is not concerned with all this. An evaluator, the job of an evaluator is that, okay, we gave you, we received $10,000, and we said we are going to do this. Did we actually do it? That is actually the job of an evaluator. But if you want to put together project management, you take into considerations how the project is, how you will hire the staffs. You take into considerations the type of staff that you want to participate in the project. But all these other extra aspects, you don't bring them into monitoring and evaluation. But monitoring and evaluation is actually what the majority of what project managers do is monitoring and evaluation, is found in monitoring and evaluation. That is actually what helped them to implement a project and manage them very well.
Great. So if we further moving on, Hilton, could you also like give an example at the end, like illustrating concepts and terms that would be extremely helpful? This is again coming from Bettina, who's new to monitoring and evaluation. Could you give some, let's say, real life examples for this?
Example for monitoring and evaluation?
Yes. Illustrating the concepts that basically entail under, like what you've explained in detail in terms of monitoring and evaluation. Do you personally have some experience where you were working on a project where you were handling this, and perhaps the different aspects that you encompassed in that?
Okay, yeah, thank you. I understand the question now. Yes, I have. What I do currently, I take proposals from grantees. Since I work in a funding organizations who fund projects, I take these proposals, I convert the idea in these proposals in a logic model. And when I convert the idea in a logic model, and I develop a monitoring and evaluation plan, and not a monitoring and evaluation frame. I develop a monitoring and evaluation plan with all the indicators, and that is actually what is used to select the best proposal that is going to be funded. But this thing that I do, I'm not supposed to do them. The grantee themselves, they are the one to submit all this. But because these capacities are not in those organizations, we have to do it in order to understand what their project is all about, to know what are they saying, what would they change. Is this an area where we can fund? If we put money in this area, what do we expect at the end? So this is actually what we do. And in evaluation, we have an evaluation team where whose job is to take this data, to collect the data that are being sent from the grantees and analyze them, and to draw conclusions if the projects were successful or not, if the project met their objectives or not. This is actually what is used to either know if you can continue funding a particular project or you should end the funding. That is why you see most funders, they are very strict in monitoring and evaluations. They want to know they want to have their evaluation report, the evaluation report of the project that they funded, and things like that.
Thank you so much, Hilton. And from the very little experience that I have in monitoring evaluation, I do agree with you that all these, big agencies like even USA, they literally require 3 months of report for monitoring and evaluation, making sure that whatever has been set is going according to the plan and everything. So it is indeed extremely helpful, and your presentation has been great. So thank you everyone, for those of you who joined us, and for those of you who couldn't, I will be sharing the presentation slides with you in my follow-up email. Also, I would really appreciate it if you could fill in the feedback form that I will be sharing. And as far as, unfortunately, Amani's presentation session is concerned, her host organization had blocked the website, that she couldn't actually reach out to Google Hangouts, which is why we weren't able to connect. But I'm surely going to reschedule her presentation and get back to you on that. So thank you everyone, for those of you joining. Thank you, Hilton, for your presentation and time. Any last comments, Hilton?
Yes, I know a lot of fellows, from what I was told, they are so interested in monitoring and evaluation, and it is an area that I can encourage everybody to invest time in. And I know what I presented, they are so I rush because of time. Honestly, I can take those are the things that I can take maybe a week to present, but I have to squeeze time so as to meet up with this presentation. But we are making arrangement to take this particular aspect of development further, to organize special sessions to try to see if we can explain all these things in detail to the understandings of fellow. But for the satellite fellow, but they should not worry, because if we have something like that, we are going to connect online in such a way that they can follow up the presentations or the lectures around all this aspect that I just presented, and much more that I could not include in this presentation. So we are looking forward to that, and I will work with Anna in order to make that happen.
That's excellent, because Hilton, actually, one of the comments that we received was that, considering how broad this topic is, they do want to get more information in detail. And I think if a session's there, then people can even ask you questions in person, which would be great. And I definitely would be very excited and look forward to this session whenever we plan on doing this. So, and maybe we could actually talk about having this at the Atlas Core office. So let's definitely be in touch regarding that. Again, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you, Hilton, once again for the amazing presentation. Have a nice day.
You too.